Okay, so we continue discussing soup. We'll cover the winter. We are discussing soup. So everyone should have a paper in front of them. It's called Hagasah v'haitzah b'kaf. 3 words. As we've learned today, titles are very important. So you always have to know what the title is talking about. Hagasah means to mix. Haitzah means to take out. And kaf is a spoon. 3 important words. We're going to, for the sake of brevity, we have 11 minutes. We're going to follow the order of this paper, which hopefully should aid in the speed and length of time. So we begin with the Gemara in Be'ah. And the Gemara in Be'ah teaches us, or Beitzah for those, however you like to pronounce it, ayin in the Yam Shel Shlema, that if you stir a pot on Shabbos, you are chayiv. Hamagis b'kedir b'Shabbos chayiv mishom mevashel. That is a Gemara. It's also Gemara in Shabbos in Yuchas Amid Beis. It comes along the Rishonim, the Ran and the Rambam, and the big discussion over here is it only an isser to stir, or is it also an isser to take out with a spoon? Let me just maybe get everyone a little bit acquainted to what's going on over here. We have to always ask ourselves the question: is the item that we're talking about cooked or not cooked? If something is not cooked, it's going to be very scary. If something is cooked, usually it is less scary. So all we saw is a Gemara. The Gemara said that to stir a pot, to stir something, didn't tell me if it's cooked or not cooked. And you already all know that when it comes to cooked and not cooked, there are different rules in the rules of bishul on Shabbos. Yesh bishul achar bishul, ein bishul achar bishul. A big difference between liquids and solids. Okay, so now with that slight vague understanding of the world of Hilchos Shabbos, let's go on. That the Gemara taught us that to stir something on Shabbos is an issa d'oraisa. We have machlekes rishonim over here, Ran and Rambam, as to where this isser applies. Is it also removal with a spoon? Everyone can understand. Anytime you're removing something with a spoon, what happens invariably? Automatically what happens is, it also, kalach hayad, also sort of, as you're taking out, it's mixing the item a little bit. So is taking something out included in this isser of stirring? The Ran seems to say that yes. The Rambam seems to say no, that it's only that. It's going to be an issa d'Rabbanan. The Ravid comes along, and the Ravid is makel to remove everything with a spoon. So it would seem to be towards the bottom of the first paper over here that we have a machlekes. The bullets, the way the bullets work in these pages, the bullets explain the Mar Mekaimis. So the bullet over here explains that's a machlekes Ran and Rambam bishir bishul she'ina acharav bishul. But kuli alma, it sounds like if something is already cooked, it sounds like if something is cooked, could you recook something that is cooked? It sounds like there should be no Isser D'Oraisa if it's already cooked, number 1. And number 2, should there be an Isser D'Rabbanan to remove something with a spoon? It would sound like there should not be. So before we see a Magen Avram, what would we think from learning a Gemara, from learning the Rishonim? We would think that if I have a pot of Chulent on a flame and I want to go take something out with a spoon, we should ask one question: is the Chulent cooked or not? If the Chulent is cooked, what should the answer be? Go have a party. Why? Because what are we afraid of? That let me ask better. Can I go and stir my Chulent on a flame? It would sound like, why not? It's cooked. Once something is cooked, how are you recooking something is cooked? We know there's rules if it cools down. There's rules about putting something onto a flame. But it would seem if something is already on a flame, just to go and merely mix it, what should the problem be? Certainly, to go and take out with a spoon, certainly should be allowed, which would seem to be the halacha. Yet comes with the Magen Avram, and the Magen Avram quotes the Heilige Kolbai. That is the name of the sigah. Whenever you want to talk about stirring and taking food on Shabbos, there's one name you need to know. His name is the Kolbai. The Kolbai is a Rishon. Comes along the Magen Avram, quoting the Kolbai, and he says, Demagis is chayiv mishom mevashel. Keep on reading. Afilu b'kedera b'muvasheles kol tzarkai. You have a fully cooked pot to stir. A fully cooked pot, says the Heilige Kolbai, a Rishon, is an Isser D'Oraisa if it's on a flame. Why in the world is there an Isser D'Oraisa to stir a pot that is fully cooked on a flame? So over here we have 2 basic mahalchim. We have a Chazon Ish and we have a Shar Tzion. The Chazon Ish comes along and the Chazon Ish says, the Kolbai is really coming similar to the Rambam, that it's going to be an Isser. The problem is, I'm skipping now to the next Chazon Ish on the paper, is that he learns that there's some new Inyan Mechudash that's happening over here, some new form of bishul. The Shar Tzion, which is I think the easiest for us to understand, explains what's pshat in the kolbai. Does everyone see? Says, Loi Eda Hatam. What does that mean in English? I do not understand the reason. So the Mishnah Berurah, who wrote the Sefer Sha'ar Tzion, as well as the Sefer Mishnah Berurah and Be'er Halacha, as well as all his numerous Svarim on Hilchos Lashon Hara, says the Chavetz Chaim, I don't know why the Kol Bay says stirring is Aser. He says the Mayadifa Agasah Bishul Mamish, and we know all the Paiskim hold that there's no Bishul Achar Bishul on a Daraisa level, for sure not. The Rabbanan is a different story. So the Mishnah Berurah asks on the Kol Bay, I don't understand. It's a kasha. But it's still the halacha. It's still the Magen Avraham. And as we turn over the paper over here, you see that comes along Rav Moshe Feinstein, he gives his understanding. Now you realize, all the Paiskim are giving their understanding of the Kol Bay, because that's the halacha. The Magen Avraham quotes the Kol Bay. We'll see in a moment, the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah is going to be quoting the Kol Bay. The Mishnah Berurah is going to be quoting the Kol Bay. So we have to try to understand. The Sha'ar Tzion says, I don't understand. Rav Moshe says a bit of an interesting understanding, which is going to really open a can of worms, make it a little bit difficult. Rav Moshe says, you never know, maybe there's a carton, a little crouton, a little dot of something that's not cooked. And as you're mixing it, then that dot will become cooked. The kasha obviously is, it's not a kasha, just we don't understand these words obviously, is a manashach. If there's part of it not cooked, it's not called, right? It's called not called cooked. And if it's called mavush called tzarka, that means we don't care about that dot. Maybe it means that we, in the rules of mavush called tzarka, we do 99.9%, but the Kol Bay is coming along and telling you that 0.001%, we have to be machmer on that. Unclear, but regardless, there is an isser of the Kol Bay. How far does the isser of the Kol Bay go? Again, the Kol Bay is the isser, that's something which is fully cooked on a flame. Imagine you're chulent right now. How far does this isser go? The Kol Bay said what? Stirring. That's what the Kol Bay's words were. Stirring something fully cooked. But how far do we take this on? Leha lacha. So comes along the Shulchan Aruch, Shin Yud Ches, Sif Yud Ches, and he says, the Shulchan Aruch says, the Machaber says, Moran, ha'ilfas v'akadir shavirim mirusachem el gabi ha'ar, im loy nisbashal kol tzarkai, ein meitzin me'em bekaf. So what does the Shulchan Aruch seem to be learning? It's only an issue if it's not fully cooked. If it's fully cooked, in this bashal called tzarkai, he says it explicitly, mutter. Aval tzemer is going to be something else, some dye. But the Shulchan Aruch himself paskins that if something is fully cooked, it's mutter. Comes along the Ramah, olechatchila yesh li zayir af bekedera. Those last two words cause the world to shake. Bechol inyan. Bechol inyan. What does bechol inyan mean? He says if the pot is fully cooked, you should be fully machmir. What's included in fully machmir? So number one, it means stirring. Number two, what does it mean? Taking with a spoon. Comes along the Mishnah Berurah. And Mishnah Berurah in the next, it's in the next bullet over there, says, you know what you have to do according to the simple reading of the Ramah? Listen to this one. Yahapoich hakedera l'kaira v'loy yoitzi bekaf. The simple reading of the words of the Ramah are, you can't do anything. So you take your pot, it's fully cooked. You can't stick a spoon in there, because as you stick it, it says the Mishnah Berurah, if you look at the Sif seemingly included all the permutations. So the simple reading of the Ramah, don't worry, we're not going to be machmer like this. But the Mishnah Berurah says the simple reading of the Ramah would seem, take the pot and you have to pour the whole pot out. Because once you stick a spoon in, we're worried about Hagasah, about this Kol Bay that we don't necessarily understand. The reason that is what the Mishnah Berurah says. But continues the Mishnah Berurah and Siv Katan Kuf Yitzayin. There's ayin ba'achrayim deloy nehigin lachmer bazeh. The Achrayim said, don't be so machmer in this matter. Because really, what's the ikar? What's the real understanding? Blue lay the Shulchan Aruch and the Magen Avraham. What would we have said? Us mere simple Jews. We would have said it's machlokes Rambam and Ran, and we certainly wouldn't have taken on it. And this is a Raisa. The ikar is mevushal kol tzarkoi. Afil lahagis is motor. If that's the ikar. Where should you be machmir? Hagasah mamish. Avol lahoitzi bekaf ein lahachmir klal binisbashto kol tzarkoi ve'ena al ha'ish. So Mishnah Berurah went, sort of danced in between two worlds over here. He says, don't go and pour it out. You could do that. What's the ikar iser? Is Hagasah mamish. So what should he do? off the fire you should take with the spoon. And that is the halach lamaisa of the Mishnah Berurah. That is the halach lamaisa how the Ramosha Feinstein paskins. Ramosha points out in Arachaim Chelek Daled Simnai Daled, what about to take from the bottom of the pot? Maybe we should be more nervous about that. Says Ramosha, no, even to take from the bottom of the pot is going to be okay. And that is the Paship Shad halach lamaisa, that you should not take on the flame, you should not mix on the flame. What should you do? Let's listen carefully to the words of the Mishnah Berurah again. You should do is you should take it off the flame and do what? Lahoitzi bekaf. So can you take it off the flame and mix it? No. Sounds like from the Mishnah Berurah that is not the correct course of action. Because the Mishnah Berurah said, even though, again, in the world of chumras, this is getting wild. It's off a flame, it's fully cooked. We don't understand the kolbai. But yet the Mishnah Berurah said the lechatchila is, and that is how the Paiskim take on, that in the world of lechatchila, you should take it off. But let's understand that there obviously are levels, and with this we conclude, we cannot mention the Heilige Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish comes along, the Chazon Ish says, okay, it's true, the Mishnah Berurah says, Kosav lahachmir, but Venira says the Chazon Ish, the Beraitz lahashar kedera, if you want to leave it on the flame, Sheina Grufa, and he says, the Chazon Ish says, you might have a problem. Now, this is a little bit of a deep study. The problem is because the Chazon Ish, they didn't have blechs, and that's really where this real problem arose, according to the Chazon Ish. And the Chazon Ish, the way he writes it, first he says, Yesh lisvach lahakel, if it's fully cooked. And then he says, if there's no other way of doing it, you could be mekel. And this is where there are those who are mekel, and they say that lamaisa, if it's very difficult, some people want to say you had a shalom zachar and you have a massive pot of cholent to take it off and stir to serve and put it back on. It's not going to be easy. So in those type of cases, they'll be semich on the Chazon Ish. Now the Chazon Ish says you're allowed to take when it's on the flame, and now at least we understand why. So in the 60-second wrap-up, the sugya of stirring on a flame, and we'll throw in your soup the last 10 seconds, the sugya of stirring in a flame is an isser of the kolbai, even fully cooked, even off of a flame we're taking on. Lechatchila, what should he do? Take it off with all the Tanai Chazar that we've spoken about. Take it out with a spoon. Don't stir. That's the most level of lechatchila. I will mention, in some scenarios, stirring is necessary. Whatever the reason is, there's a makam to be makel to stir as you realize the bit off the flame. What about taking on the flame? There is a Chazon Ish that is mekel, and there are contemporary poskim that do say if either A, you're not going to be able to take cholent later for whatever which reason, or B, let's say someone doesn't know the halacha, and if you're going to start getting all confused, so there's a makam to be mekel like the Chazon Ish. But now with everything you understand, what about a clear liquid? So some poskim on a clear liquid, this thing doesn't apply. Because on a clear liquid, there's no chumrah of something fully cooked. But so some people say, soup. But 1 second, is your soup clear liquid? It depends. If your soup has noodles and vegetables and carrots and squash and zucchini, it's not so much a clear liquid. So maybe someone could say just take a little bit of the clear liquid from the top, perhaps. But of course, l'chatchila is always going to be take it off. And let's go eat our soup. Oh wait, wrong thing.